Back in the 90s, being openly gay in sports was almost unheard of, and starting a queer rugby club, even tougher. That's why on today's episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast, we're interviewing
Gabriel Galluccio,
one of the founding members of the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club, to ask him what it was like starting one of the first openly queer rugby teams in the world. This is the Gay Rugby Podcast.
Let's get ready to rock. Welcome, Gabe.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
What's wrong? I hear a little tickle in your throat. What's going on?
Well, I went to a concert and my voice is gone.
Oh no. Well, I'm glad you're here and you're at least able to talk to us.
Yeah, it's kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it gives me like this voice that it.
It's giving a sexy tone.
I'm working it.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds how I sound after a 4-day rugby tournament.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I could have used that story.
This takes me back to my adolescence when I was a teenager and I wanted to have like that pre-recorded voicemail message. I always waited until I was sick because I thought that I sounded sexy. So it's giving you the same effect.
Well, there you go.
Well, thanks for joining us, Gabe. We're happy to have you. If maybe you want to just introduce yourself to our audience, let them know who you are, what you do, and anything you want to share.
Yeah, well, I'm Gabriel Galluccio. I'm originally from Argentina. I am a creative director in sports broadcasting. I've been working in that capacity for 35 years.
Very cool.
Nice.
And I know we talked a little bit about this before we started the podcast, but you were telling me kind of about the story about how you were inspired to create the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club and how you actually joined a queer soccer team first.
Yeah. Well, being from Argentina, I grew up playing rugby. So in LA, I joined the Occidental College All Boys. And I was playing with them, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, the stigma of HIV and gay was still hunting us. So I could not be open because there would be a lot of guys that wouldn't play with me just because.
Yeah.
Because the fact that I was gay. So that stopped me from coming out to my team. Although I was out everywhere else, I was on sports broadcasting and I was out, which was another journey in itself.
You were living your life as an openly gay man.
And working my way through the obstacles that represented at the time. That didn't stop me, but in rugby, the danger of not playing was a price that I found at that time it was too high to pay. I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So I think it was in 94, if I'm not mistaken, there was the first gay games in New York. And I heard about it. I was like, oh my God, I have to be there. Finally, it's okay for LGBT community to have gay sports. And the other thing that happened, it was like after with HIV, with AIDS, the culture of having a big physique was a response to the decay that AIDS represented. So everybody was buff and good looking and, in good shape just because it was a way to say I'm healthy. And it was actually a complete wall of like, can you play any sports? No. And that was something that I found difficulty to relate to the gay community because everything was fine, but when I got to the athleticism, it wasn't there. So gay games came up. I wanted to go. I said, I have to go. So
what are gay games for those listening that aren't sure what it is?
It was kind of like it was an Olympics for the gay community. That's the idea.
Cool.
In fact, they had an issue with they called them the Gay Olympics, but the Olympic
Committee.
committee dropped a lawsuit, and they couldn't use that name because
Yeah.
it was
Shame on you, IOC.
Well, it's their property, and
Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah. So I joined the Suns in West Hollywood. It was an openly gay soccer club, and we ended up playing with them for a year. And then when the gay games came up in Amsterdam, I signed up, and I went there with the team. It was a life-changing experience because we went to the Ajax Stadium in Amsterdam, which ironically, in my work life, I've been many times for games, but this was different.
You hadn't played there.
No,
Yeah.
we did the opening ceremonies were at the field, so all the athletes came into the pitch, and it was Elton John was right behind me playing, and it was
Surreal
it
experience.
was a real experience
Oh,
at
wow.
that time after going through so much discrimination, all the tragedies that happened in the 80s. It was really, really hard, fighting for gay rights and APLA, ACT UP, all those moments, and to have this amazing welcoming was a life-changing experience. It turned out that we won the gold medal.
Oh, nice.
So
Congrats.
the ceremonies were the soccer pitches were a little bit out of the center of town, and of course I rented a bicycle and I was with my boyfriend, and
As one does in Amsterdam.
yeah. So we riding the bicycles back, and I had my gold medal on my neck, riding the bicycle. As we're coming into the city, people on the buses and people on the streets were actually applauding.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, So I came back to LA completely recharged by this, and I felt, okay, this is it. I have to bring rugby into these events. This was 96. I didn't know anybody that would play sports. I didn't know where to start, how to make it happen. None of my teammates were gay, so it's a team of one couldn't happen. So I met this guy who was a quarterback in football and gay in the closet. But I tried to convince him to help me. And he's like, no, definitely I cannot do that. And a few months later, he contacted me and said, hey, I met this guy that's been in Amsterdam, I've been in Manchester, and is interested in starting a team. Put us in touch. So that's how I met Dino. And Dino, we contacted on the phone first. And this is kind of like I have to admit my reality on that. He sounded a little bit too queer to me to bring him to practice with my team.
Because you were still in the closet.
I was still in the
with
closet
your
with my
rugby
team, with my rugby, with Occidental.
But you were living your life as an openly gay man
Correct.
everywhere else.
Correct. It was a very hard thing to manage, but that was the life back then. So I didn't want the risk of being outed. So yeah.
I know we talked a lot about the stigma of AIDS and stuff, but why didn't you feel comfortable coming out to your rugby team specifically?
Mostly because of the stigma of HIV.
Yeah.
At that time, there were some lawsuits. I remember there was a famous lawsuit of this girl that was suing her dentist, that was a gay dentist and had HIV, to passing on the virus to her. So there was all this stigma of how will this happen?
There was also like misinformation, right? Because
A lot.
the general public, obviously, they were scared. HIV was fairly new, so they didn't know like how it was transmitted. And even when they did know how it was transmitted, it still took a while for the general public to kind of catch on and understand
And accept it.
and accept it. And you didn't get it by sharing a toilet bowl or occupying the same space, but that's where we were back then, or that's where
It
people
was
were
actually
back then.
even worse because a lot of people were thinking that was the punishment of God, from God to the gay
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
So it was, psychologically, mental health was not an issue contemplated back then. Oh, but it screwed up my generation seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, you have everybody's telling you that you deserve to die this horrible death.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh, you're gay, stay away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, that was very common to happen. It was a little bit, it was starting to be less back then because there were some initial meds that were starting to work, but it was still a stigma for many.
So trying to get an LGBTQ plus rugby club off the ground, up and running, that must have been pretty difficult.
It was
at
a
the time.
dare. It was a dare experience. It was a daring moment.
Yeah.
I thought, and I was struggling with myself in that because I thought, okay, I'm ready for this, and then it was letting go of my rugby identity as a player to become a gay rugby identity as a player. I didn't know what was on the other side, and it was, going through the gay rights movements and the AIDS protests in the 80s in San Francisco was easier because I had a lot of support from my friends
Yep.
that were there, so we were a group. This one was a team of one at the moment. So there was a lot of uncertainty for me on what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And also, it was the fact that LA was not a rugby city. The States is not a rugby community. It's only now that it's growing. So there was that aspect of it that was, okay, what am I going to be facing when I get to that?
So do you think that wanting to bring Dino to play with you was one of the reasons why you said, like, maybe I create my own space so you didn't have to deal with the backlash from coming out to your straight
Yeah,
team?
I mean, Dino was the first step for me. And it was a lead that I wanted to investigate. So I didn't want to bring him to practice with my team. So at that time, it was a tryout season. And I knew that the Santa Monica rugby team had practice. And I told Dino, let's go to that. I'll meet you at that practice.
At that practice. Got you.
So I went there, and Dino actually brought one recruit with him at the time. But the two of them, I mean, I have to say, that was probably one of the toughest practices that I've ever been to. They were all Australians and New Zealander players that were really tough in the practice. And I didn't know at the time, I didn't know they were first division team. So we went through that practice. I was in heaven because I was like, oh my God, I love
Rugby.
rugby.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
This is the real thing, and I mean, I liked my team, what we were doing, but the drills we're doing were like awesome. And I could see those two were like dead. They didn't know what to do with the ball. They didn't know anything about it. And I was like, okay. The practice ended, and we walk outside together. And so I asked Dino, so what's your story? You are no rugby player. Why do you want to start a team? And he told me, he had been to Manchester and met the Spartans there and have such a great experience of the camaraderie of rugby.
And just to jump in here, the Spartans were one of the first inclusive rugby
I think
teams.
it's the
The
second one was
after the King's
Sydney.
Cross Steelers.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, King's Cross Steelers, yeah.
Cross, yeah.
Just for context, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So so I say, okay. At that point, I mean, my man said, I have to make this happen. So I told him, okay, here's the thing. I play, I know the game, I can be the coach, but you have to organize it. And it was a little selfish on my side, but also had, my professional life was very busy. I was teaching, I was working, I was lecturing. So I was really, I didn't have a lot of time available.
You were busy.
So he took on that, and he started recruiting, and the first practices were at Elysian Park. If you're in LA, it's closer to the police academy, but Elysian Park, I didn't know it at the time, but it is a cruising spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we are like there, we park our cars and we find a spot to pass the ball. And there's all these guys coming from the bushes. I'm like, oh, great. Fantastic, right? So this was
before like online dating.
So it was a convenient coincidence, I think. Yeah.
No,
It wasn't planned that way.
I was like, okay, well, this, meant to be, meant to happen.
So this was the first training session for the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club.
Correct.
Who showed up?
There were four. There were us 2 plus 3 other guys.
Okay. So 5. 5 people. It takes 15 players to field a side in rugby. So 10 short, and that's not even including the bench warmers and the backup. So
you guys know.
Tough.
So then to orchestrate a practice with 5 people that never, and so it was like we went through several weeks of the basics.
Wow.
So it sounds like you got this mixed bag of players that were showing up initially, not necessarily because they wanted to play rugby per se, but because it was a space that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
In sports that they can actually be a part of, and learn something new, meet new people, and do something, I guess, other than like going to the bars and drinking or whatever other stereotype you want to insert about what gay people do. So that's interesting. So how many players did you end up with on your roster on your first match? Yeah.
We had a little bit above 15. I think it was like we had like 16, 17 maybe.
And how many years was that after the first practice?
Well, we finally had enough players to register the team.
And join a league?
We registered officially as a team.
Cool.
and created the organization. We created an organization and registered the name in West Hollywood as a West Hollywood team. But it was on September 10, 2001.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it was one day before 9/11.
Wow.
So, of course, Mark Bingham died the next day, and all of a sudden there's this news, and we started to get more visibility. So we started to get more players.
And I just want to jump in for those of you who don't know, Mark Bingham was a queer rugby player who played for the San Francisco Fog, who tragically lost his life on 9/11.
He was one of the passengers that fought back, I believe, United 93. And so the Bingham Cup is named in his honor.
The Bingham Cup is the largest amateur rugby tournament in the world, and it's also a queer tournament, which is really cool, and that's in his memory.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it was all of a sudden we were visible, and it started to bring more attention. Interestingly enough,
because of the story of Mark Bingham,
because of the story of Mark Bingham,
was the media sharing his story and highlighting the fact that he was a gay rugby player.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I don't remember seeing that in the news. I learned about Mark Bingham later, and I thought that it was I thought it was a missed opportunity on the LGBTQ community not to make sure that was front and center. But maybe I just was looking at the wrong news sites or.
I mean, we were young.
We were.
I was young.
I was young and informed, or at least trying to be. So.
How old were you? 2001.
I will not answer that question.
9 years old.
There you go.
I was a fetus in 2001. How about that?
No, so we were the first inclusive team
In Scarfu.
in Scarfu. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And how did people react to that?
Yeah.
Especially like
You know-
on the
Yeah,
pitch.
other teams.
that's a great question because I got to play against the Oxy,
The old boys, your former team.
my former team.
So
Full circle.
So was that the way you came out, or did they know before that?
No, that was the way I came
Oh,
out.
that's great. Okay, so tell us how that game
Yeah,
went.
let's hear about that.
So it was actually, to my surprise, they were all coming and hugging me, and they actually, all of them were saying, "This is so cool that you're starting a new team in California." I mean, the fact that I promoted rugby was bigger than it was a gay team.
Yeah,
It was for them. It was like, you made it. You made one more
it
team.
was
They
about
just
rugby.
wanted more
was about
rugby
rugby.
players.
for
Yeah.
more rugby players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really like the third half was like hugging and
That's-
like being like in a way I felt stupid for not coming out earlier by the welcoming I got from them.
But the trauma is real, like
Yeah, yeah.
like that because of the stigma, because of the fear of the backlash. So I think you were very valid in not coming out, and everyone out there that has experienced something like that will empathize because we know what it's like.
Yeah.
Going to-
So how many seasons did the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club play before the first Bingham Cup?
One.
Just one?
Just
Right.
one. Just one. In fact, for the first Bingham Cup, not all the players could come. So I asked an Argentinian friend straight to join us. And then there was another friend from my former team that came in order for us to have enough players. And we had already 3 players that were straight and married. 2 of them were married. And Ireland, he was a great guy. His wife was insanely funny. She brought to the first Bingham shot glasses that were shaped as dicks. And she was pouring tequila, and she was like, no hands.
Why do you think you've talked about a couple of straight players on the team? Why do you think they chose to join the Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club instead of
it was
some
very,
of the other teams?
One of the things I found, for me, what it represented immediately is like, okay, this is so great. This is true, inclusive. This is the ideal world that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It was just like, my mind was like, this is perfect. And they have different reasons, but most of them had someone in the family that was gay, or it worked that way for them. The interesting part is that we were doing well in San Francisco, and immediately was, you brought ringers. You have straight players on your team.
So there is stigma within the gay community.
Oh, it was a reverse one.
Oh,
It was like,
wow.
Exactly. That was my reaction.
Yeah. And so the first Bingham was in San Francisco?
Yeah.
And how many other teams were there?
8 teams.
8?
8 teams.
8 teams.
We
Okay.
came fourth. This is the program for
Hold it up maybe right in front of your face so that they
Yay.
can see it there. So that is the program for the first ever
the
Bingham
first
Cup
ever Bingham Cup.
inclusive rugby tournament in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's a page on Mark Bingham. So that talks about him, who he was. And then they did like all the brackets of the teams. And there was a Buenos Aires team that was formed at the time, but it dissolved. It didn't survive.
So they never made it.
So how many, I know I asked how many teams, where were the teams from? The 8 teams.
Here.
I'll read them them out loud.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Rebellion Rugby Club. We have the Renegades, which are
DC.
DC. Okay. Steelers from England. Fog from San Francisco. The Knights, that was
New York.
the Gotham Knights. Yeah, from New York City.
Seattle Quake.
And I think
Did you say the Spartans already?
the Spartans.
Manchester Spartans.
Manchester Spartans. How cool. A little piece of history right here.
Yeah.
No, that was good. No, I'm surprised I still have it.
And so what was the like vibe of the tournament? What was the
It was
feeling?
also, it happened on Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday was Pride.
Oh, really?
So we marched, all the teams marched Pride. It was awesome. It was great.
cool.
It was just like, San Francisco Pride, being the gay rugby players, first tournament ever,
Yeah.
Mark Bingham. So there was a lot going on in there.
Very cool. I think that's something maybe that my generation takes for granted, is that there's this huge community that's available to us. But for you were starting from scratch.
Yeah.
You helped build it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely stand on the shoulders of those like you that started these spaces for us, because it was easy for us to just, like we mentioned in a previous episode, Google rugby and find a club. Back then, you couldn't do that,
Oh, Bunny just farted.
Great.
Unless that was one of you guys.
No, that was not me.
Well, Gabe, thank you so much for joining us today.
My
We really
pleasure.
appreciate you taking the time and sharing the story of how the Los Angeles Rebellion Club was founded, and also your personal experience.
Yeah, thank you. I think I learned a lot about the club and its history, and I think that's good to know.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate every one of you for watching and supporting. So make sure that you like and subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video with a friend. And remember,
Don't just play the sport.
change the sport. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Gay Rugby Podcast. If you liked this video, do us a favor and subscribe. Hit that bell to change your preferences to notify all, and that way you'll get a notification every time a new episode comes out, which is going to be every Monday. So share this video with a friend, like, comment, and we appreciate the support. We'll catch you on the rugby pitch. See ya.